Jeve.
Lidi?
Je to starodávná raketa. Od nás ze Země.
Ze kterého století?
Nevím. Podle oblečení asi 20. Jsou tady cigarety, sklo, papíry. Ženy mají šperky. Zahynuli všichni najednou.
Jak? Jak zemřeli?
Nevím. Je tu všechno neporušené.
So, Pavel, you make drum and bass music. You have done a lot of CGI short films and things like that. You're very into sci-fi. Blade Runner and Vangelis is something we've discussed about. Can you talk about the influence that this film had on you and how you see your music connecting with these kind of visions of the future?
Yes, I mean, for me, like, this movie is very special because I actually learned about this quite late, you know, not when I was growing up, because I was quite little when the situation in Czech Republic changed, you know, so I couldn't really judge that, you know, but I always was inspired by the international movies and sci-fi movies and all those kind of classic things. But then after my studies in Australia, I came back and I started researching, you know, what was actually done in Czech Republic. And I found this one and the amazing composer Zdeněk Liška that, you know, I always admired. And I was fascinated that at the time he decided that he's just going to score total like synthetic score for that movie, you know. And I mean, I would love to see some footage from those recordings because like I can hardly imagine what actually he was using and how he was actually using them because like there were not many people experienced with those technologies back then in Czech Republic, I think, you know. So that is something that inspired me and I tried to research, but I didn't actually find that many. Maybe Aleš knows more about this one, but I actually didn't find many information about that. But yeah, I mean, the movie is very specific, has got this like a very dark in a way and empty atmosphere to it, you know, and it drove me and I saw it many times, you know, and it's very specific and I tried to analyze and think, you know, and imagine and how he was, you know, working on it. Like if he actually got the movie and he started scoring to the picture, or if he actually came up with it, I don't know. But something interesting Aleš mentioned when we were talking during the clip that he actually had like an edit board at his house, and so some of the scenes maybe, you know, he was editing while he was scoring, which is I think very unique, you know, and I don't think that many composers had that opportunity, you know, so they can kind of fit their music into the picture, and then directors would be, yeah, this is great, let's go for that. But I mean that is something that unique, and I think in his situation might have actually worked for him, that he was actually able to do that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is it's the electronic score is interesting, and I'll go back to the shop on Main Street as well. It's unusual to hear a score like that.
Yes.
But also, he's bringing in, once they enter the spaceship, and he brings in those kind of haunting elements, which are very modern. Like you could put that into a film now, and it would sit quite nicely. And that is also, I think, quite unique. You know, we were playing Forbidden Planet on our last show, and that's a classic 50s of its moment. The electronic score, it feels very 50s. But, you know, the combining of the electronic and the orchestral just feels very, very fresh and modern, even to this
Totally,
day.
yeah, it's mind-blowing, I mean,
Yeah.
what he was able to do at the time.
And I'd like to show a piece from one of your pieces now. Let's show Encounter, which is a sci-fi short that you've done. And you can talk a little bit about sort of how you developed your language.
Cool, thank you.
So this is a short. Would you like to just explain a little bit what the short film was and how you came up with the sounds for it?
Yes. So as you mentioned, and you were there yesterday, there's this big Czech actually drum and bass festival that's called Let It Roll, and I was actually doing the first opening show ceremony way back a couple of years, maybe it was 2013. And since then, a lot of change. Obviously, I mean the production, kind of totally changed. The amount of people that actually go to the events and the quality is just amazing. And last year we were talking that they would like to do something slightly different again. So they asked me if I would like to participate, and I was like, yeah, of course, it would be great. And I tried to come up with this like narration to the story that they were trying to, like already tell for a couple of years. And we came up with this idea that we could tell a story of this lady actually. Her name is Eve, that is like greeting this alien actually that he's just going to their planet, and they are giving him this like a special key that should show him his next journey to his planet, because his planet was destroyed. And it was always we never used, or before they never used like a real humans, and it was always just some little bit of CGI and just more over like just a music, And I thought it would be great just to do something slightly different and tell the story as well with humans, and then the music will tell the story, So there was and I tried to create like the language. I thought, what is the best, because we have this electronic music that people loves, and go to the rave, to dance, What would be the best way how they can communicate? I thought, well, how about like she's gonna play certain riffs, and the alien's gonna like, obviously like a little bit inspired from the Encounters of the Third Kind in a way.
So cool, yeah.
But I thought, okay, let's do it our way, and that was kind of the idea behind. I was like, okay, this could be kind of fun, play these riffs, and he's gonna like respond, and then they give him the key, and his journey is gonna continue, So that was the idea behind the little story.
So John Williams had a tuba, and you had a DJ rig.
Yeah, that was like. So now always like, I got the idea because I was thinking, because before I felt there was a lot of this narration voice before in some of the opening ceremonies. And I thought it was just too much talking, and people, sometimes, they don't hear parts, so they don't really pay attention when they are at the rave, they just talk, and, so I thought what we can do in order to show communication between different, like species, but not talk actually. And
Right.
I thought the music, the frequencies, that's how we, everyone understands in a way. So that was, we tried that.
Awesome.
And what is, because drum and bass, which is your preferred music, is a very futuristic sound. It's I was with someone in a club once, and they said to me, Ollie, when we were growing up, these are the sort of clubs that everyone said would exist in the future. This type of music, And I want to ask you what the line is. That piece, it's musical. If you listen to drum and bass, that's what it is. But at the same time, there's a lot of sound design in it. There's a lot of production. You are a sound designer and a producer. Where is the line for you between music and sound design, or is there not one?
Well, because my journey is very different to
Yeah.
my dear colleagues and friends, because I started quite later. I was actually supposed to be a tennis player when I was little.
Really?
So I actually, music to me was at the beginning just, that's music, and I never actually, was like fascinated by it since I was little. But I think everything changed when I was like 14, 15, maybe 16, I don't know. When I heard like electronic music from England, obviously, and it was The Prodigy,
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, what is this? This is like amazing, And I tried to research, and my journey started there. So definitely the sound design was always like a big part of that, because like, synthesizers and the energy, and the color. So I started like looking into music more with the like rhythm, energy, and the color. And then obviously like when I was learning how I can do those sounds, I had very little amount of money, and then it was actually pre-internet time. So I didn't know how to do anything of that. There were not that many people in Czech who would tell me, you do this. So I started somehow with like a little laptop, and then I saved some money, and I bought a better computer and a little synthesizer. And then the journey started. And I actually decided to go study sound engineering, because I thought, okay, if I want to be better with this, I should study something. And it was not the composition at the time, but it was the sound engineering that I thought, okay, this could help me to be better. I went to Sydney, studied the sound engineering part, and then I came back to Czech, and my journey like continued as a sound engineer, DJ, composer. you know, and that obviously, so it was still there, the sound design part. It's a big part of what I do, and when I was working on this, I was, you know, looking at different ways, how can I actually make it organic and still synthetic. So I was saying the story that the voice of the alien was a combination of timpani actually and synthetics and this kind of morphing kind of. I use this plugin that actually can take 2 or 3 different sound sources, and based on those sound sources, he will change the original sound. So that how I can, because I want it to be still organic, not really only synthetic. So that was.
And just because we've talked about it so much with Aleš and Beata, you're also a slightly different generation in that you're probably too young to remember too much about communism, but you grew up in the post-communist sort of era. Would you like to just talk a little bit about what the kind of flavor was for you then?
No, I mean, I really lived a little bit when
I mean, there's no crossing the border to get ABBA CDs.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but so as I said, you know, at my early age, you know, I didn't really care about music. You know, I mean, I liked music always, and there was music that I listened to, but it never crossed my mind. I mean, that this is something that I would love to do, you know, and put all my heart into. But I could definitely tell that if the situation wouldn't change, I will not be able to do what I do. You know, there will be no way. You know, and I'm just so grateful that actually happened. You know, because like as Aleš said, nobody believed that it will change. You know, I think that was just not. That's how it is. You know, and you adapt. You know, and I didn't understand it, but it was one fun fact actually that I never knew where it comes from. But when I was little, I didn't want to learn Russian somehow. I just felt it didn't resonate with me. I liked English. My father, sometimes he just said some English words like potatoes. You know, I remember he always said potatoes. I don't know for why. But
It's one of the better words.
I think that says a lot about Czech cuisine as well.
yeah, potatoes.
One of the P words.
You know, so somehow because my parents, they were just obviously they were trying to just live through the system. You know, they were not like anti-system. But somehow inside me, like I didn't want to learn Russian, and luckily when I was growing up, you know, situation changed. I never had to learn Russian, and my first language was English. You know? So that really, I think, you know, kind of formed me in a way. And then the first countries were you know, like I went to England, and then I went to Sydney, and all these things. So I think that thanks to that, you know, I could really go on this journey that came from, you know, England and other countries, you know. So I'm very grateful, and I really don't know what I would be doing actually if the system wouldn't change.
Not anymore.
I mean, I love that sport, but you know, I mean, I was okay. I wasn't like super awesome, you know. I was okay, but yeah, I'm glad that it's changed and I could go on a different journey.
I'm really interested in this thing that you talk about where you're describing your music. You know, you're crunching all these boundaries, and you're talking about it, you know, being visual, and you're talking about it being sound design, and I love that. You know, I was in England growing up on that stuff as well, and it's just so epic and futuristic. So I'd like to show a clip actually from Blade Runner, which is, you know, Vangelis is a huge influence on your DJing, and I think it kind of illustrates that point, but I'd like to hear you talk about it afterwards, and then we'll watch you actually playing live and see, you know, how the vision of the future and the future kind of, you know, how they compare. So let's play Blade Runner.
Engineer waste disposal. File section, new employee, 6 days.
So if ever there's a piece of film and music that crushes the boundary between sound design and music, that's it. And it kind of blew people's minds.
Amazing.
Talk about its effect. And also you know a lot about how those sounds were generated.
Yes, of course. I mean, this is. I mean, everybody. I think everybody knows this movie, and it's just so iconic on so many levels. You know, I mean, Ridley Scott and everything, and the visuals, and how the movie feels, you know, and how realistic it is, you know, and then Vangelis music that is very different. I think it's very, in a way, to me, it's similar like with Liška. Like you would not expect this music to be in such a sci-fi movie. You know, I mean, I remember actually my first encounter with this movie was like I was kind of mistaken, or I didn't understand the music. I was confused. You know, I was like, this is kind of weird, like because I was used to like seeing or hearing music to these kind of movies very differently. You know? And after maybe the second or third watch through, I was like, okay, I totally love this. I get it now, you know, and this is like so brave and incredible, you know.
And what was the thing that you got?
Well, I mean, I think the thing is like that. Obviously, I was first interested in how he created those sounds, right? And there's this like very famous synthesizer that is like now it's like it's nearly impossible to buy it because it's so expensive and it's actually so heavy and it's hard for maintaining. It's the Yamaha CS80, and it's like the one feature of that synthesizer is it had like a polyphonic aftertouch. So that means that aftertouch like allows you to adjust certain parameters on if you press a key, but normally it is like you adjust that and only one key affects it, and it only affects, you know, just one note, right, or the whole chord. But this one had it on a polyphonic, so you could, every note could be slightly different, you know, and that's why it's so like expressive. The trailer, or I mean the music is so expressive. So that is, you know, and actually he had I think 4 or 5 of these, you know, at the time. And then another one was a Roland, which was like a combination of a vocoder and a string machine. I think it's VC330 it's called. And yeah, it's very, very iconic synth as well. And he uses through the whole score, and it's just like, yeah, it's incredible. And I love those bells he uses. Like, it's very, you know, it works with the story when you as well then see how the light is through the whole story, how Ridley Scott works with the light and the reflections. So I think, you know, I mean, when you're listening then to the bells, to me, it seems like Vangelis got inspired by that, actually, you know.
Yeah.
All these reflections and the materials, the glass, you know, that he's using, you know. So, I mean, to me, I thought, oh, this is maybe why he actually decided to use those sounds.
I mean, I remember when I first heard it, and to this day, it just felt haunting and terrifying.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
there's this kind of, and the fact that it's so ethereal, you can't hang on to anything.
Yes, totally. No.
But at the same time, it's so overpowering.
No, it's very, very different. And actually, I heard one story about how the music was put into the movie. Apparently, Vangelis just wrote a lot of music, you know, and then actually the editor of the film like spent a lot of time actually finding the right spots for the music. So I think maybe it was really the collaboration between Vangelis, you know, and Ridley Scott and the editor, because I'm very sorry, I forgot his name, but we can research.
Yeah.
So that actually he spent a lot of time finding the right spots for the music to actually have this impact and this surreal kind of, you know.
Yeah, no, we had in our Bren Frost discussion. That's you know, he generates a ton of music, and he's like, the editor does whatever they want with it, you know. Great. So now we're going to play a clip of yours that is your piece that is inspired very much by what you've just discussed, and you can then tell us a bit about that. And that's Sand City. So Pavel, tell us what this is and how it came about.
Yes, actually I have a friend, Philip Hodas, who's like amazing 3D artist, and we actually we met a couple years back, and we just talked about like how we love obviously the music and movies and all these things, and at the time I had like a free space in my studio, and I actually offered him like, do you want to share space in the studio, because then we can do something together, and he was like, yeah, it would be amazing. And we actually, because we both love Blade Runner, and it was before 2019, which is actually the year when the original Blade Runner is taking place. We thought, okay, so how about we just make a story kind of inspired by Blade Runner, and we just, release it in 2019 or present to the people, and I will write the music, or I will write the music, and he will create this, the animations, and we thought, okay, this is great. We started working on the ideas. But then I was like, okay, but I mean, we will do all this work, but we will not own the rights, because we will be inspired by this, so we can't really, say, okay, this is ours. So I decided actually that we will try to come up with the original story that will be inspired by just the vibe or the atmosphere. And I went to Santiago de Compostela, like for a walk. Just, I thought maybe that will help me, to come up with a story.
You mean a pilgrimage?
Yeah, the pilgrimage. Yeah.
3 days.
Yeah. I went the French one. Yeah, the long one. Yeah. But I didn't finish it because I went too long distances from the start, and my legs kind of collapsed. But on the way, I was every day I was trying to record to my phone ideas. And come up with like a story. And when I got back, I actually had like a little base for the story, and we put it down and started working on it. And then we had like a premiere, so far just only one, in the 24th of January in 2020. It was just slightly before COVID, and then COVID kind of hit and everything kind of went down. But we will definitely still, hopefully resurrect the story, and we'll do more shows, because there's still some things we have to, do better, and all these things. First you always learn what should be better or different, and all these things. But yeah, this was the main actually inspiration came from Blade Runner, because we wanted to show something that now is the future, 2019. This is it, And we had this idea, when we're gonna screen it, instead of Los Angeles 2019, we're gonna do Prague 2019, and then, so that was the first actually idea or thought, and that led to the whole project.
And this is just a glimpse. There's other things as well that you're working on, part of this project.
Yes.
And eventually you want to show it live, is that right?
Yes, that's the plan. Yes, that's the plan.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're going to come back around, and we'll return to you in a moment. And we're going to come back to you, Alish.
You promised to show a clip of him
That's
being
okay.
a DJ.
We are going to show a clip, but we're saving the best for last. We're saving the best for last.
There might be a photo of Ollie and I with glow sticks. I'm not sure if that would reflect well on with my university colleagues.
So Alish, we're going to show a piece of music you did for a film called The Butlers. You're going to talk about that afterwards, but this connects a little bit, I think, with what Pavel was talking about when he was growing up, it was a different culture, thankfully.
Yes.
And this film is really part of that. It's like the 90s. It's one of the first films that was a internationally distributed independent Czech film that was post-communist, post-Soviet. So let's play that, and then you can talk about it.
So good.
So very different to I Serve the King of England.
Yeah, because it's a different director. I mean, you have to fulfill diverse wishes of diverse directors, and this was a low-budget movie. I mean, all the people performing in it were friends, because no one had money to pay for anything, and it was consciously an independent movie. So the director loved always independent movies, so he wanted to create something weird and full of weird ideas. And it was, I think, the first Czech movie using 6 different stories fitting together, and putting light one story on the other, and so on. So that was fun. Well, it was before the world changed, because afterwards started multiplex cinema, and this movie was played in one movie theater in Prague for something like 1.5 years daily, 2 or 3 times. So it was like a theater piece. Yeah. So that's old history. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a legendary film in the Czech Republic.
It's sort of cult.
Yeah. I love the way your music, maybe it's because it's low budget, but just the simplicity of just holding on a shot under the railway tracks as the train's going over this guy and just not breaking it. And your music just sort of complements that really well.
Well, in a way, it's interesting to say, as Bertha mentioned, the BPM. I used the Wagen, and it's to create the BPM for this music as well. So that's how we steal from reality.
And while we're on this, we're going to play another clip of yours. Let's play the clip from Nina, which is also a very different type of thing, but also has a kind of simplicity to it that really just, governs the images. Let's play that, please. Okay, so just to put into context, this is about a divorced couple who do not get along well at all. and their daughter has run away from them, and they're searching for their daughter, and they realize finally that maybe their own behavior has kind of, harmed their daughter's life. It's really beautiful. It's really haunting. Drew, I know you want to ask.
I'm struck by so much of how you approach your music making. But in this clip in particular, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, and for our composers back in the United States who are aspiring to work in film, the importance and value of space and silence, and having a sensitivity to how music can support, but also create space for the listener viewer. You use these. The silence is as beautiful as the musical moments are, and I'm just wondering if you could talk about how that came about for you in this clip, and in general your relationship to space in your music.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would say that the director of this movie is a Slovak director and a son of a famous Slovak pop musician. So he has a feeling for music, and he trusts you as a musician, because he knows that it's possible to say a lot through music, which you don't have to say through words nor picture. And we decided this scene, it might be relevant to know, is playing only in the head of the young girl.
Okay.
So it's not realistic. She was her only joy in the life between the divorcing parents is swimming. She loves swimming, and she is supposed to attend a competition, and the parents simply forbid her to participate in the competition. And this is her inner image of how she is swimming, how she is winning the competition, and how a real famous Czech Slovak swimmer gives her the medal, and then she is on the winning steps, but it's in the washing room. So we knew it's surreal, this scene, and to support that, we decided that it will have no sound, and it will only have the music, and the pauses between the bits of music were supposed to be unbearable, almost unbearable. I conducted this string quartet to perform it, and I always waited as long as possible, as they couldn't bear it not to start to play. And I always said, and only now. And so we created sort of, it's at the same time a sort of a beautiful Bach-like music, and at the same time it's just a bit of a memory, of an image of a better life. So that's how we worked on that.
And you were saying that your cello player was freaked out by the slowness and the pauses.
Yes, because it's so difficult to play in tune and in rhythm, and to change the strings, because it's mostly on 3 strings, so that you have 3 from 4 strings of the cello using it, and to make the changes from one string to the other almost inaudible. That's
because part of the power of the piece is those silences, but also the kind of the reverb and the grain. As a recording engineer, did you work on this?
No, I don't think this one.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no.
I don't think this one. Yeah.
The recording of it, the production of it is very powerful, right?
Yeah, it was.
Like you say, it's unbearable. Just that silence, that dim echo in the silence makes it even more unbearable, and the weight of those strings.
There's so many things in music making for film that allow the music to support narrative and support meaning and support our understanding of what we're watching and what the story that we're taking in. And this is a great example about how something that you don't typically, when people generally think of music, they think of melodies and rhythms and harmony and this kind of thing, and the silence, the apprehension of silence, and how that reflects this little girl and the way in which she is stuck and bound and almost frozen in time in some of these moments. It's a very, very, very powerful musical device. Silence is a musical device. So, you know, it's just such an inspiring thing to see, and that you had a collaborative partner in that director who had the courage to do something like that. Did that come? Did the idea of silence come from you, or did it come from your collaborator?
Honestly, I don't remember. It was a discussion.
Yeah.
Because with Juraj
That's so
Lehocký, it's
important.
always a discussion. I always get the script long time before he starts shooting, so we have time to talk about the music, let's say a year or 2 years before he starts shooting. In our second movie, which premiered just last month, I was involved even into the script because it was about a life of a professional cellist, and so he took me into the writing part of the script, which of course is great if you can prepare the material for your music this way.
I mean, as you know, Ollie does this with the composers he works with. He works very closely with them and gets them deeply involved in the storytelling itself. It'd be so wonderful if more directors understood the power in this, getting composers involved very early on.
It's about trusting to music. So
Yeah.
most of the directors I met are afraid that if they don't say it with words, something will get lost. And they simply need to be convinced that it's not necessary to say everything by words or by fast editing, but you can also let people simply dive into it.
Beautiful.
And it's interesting because with this piece, and Beata, with what you were talking about with the BPMs and what you were talking about with Blade Runner, a lot of this conversation has been about how the music, like, just, you know, filters into your pores. You know, it's sort of beyond, you know, it's sound, and having the confidence to do that, which this piece we've just seen shows that beautifully. And that brings us to you, Beata, because I want to show another piece from Zatopek where you're unfortunately we can only show, it's this extended marathon sequence which lasts for like 9 minutes, and you're doing a lot in that sequence. We're going to show the end of the sequence where you're still doing a lot. and in a very similar way, actually similar to what we just saw with Alice, it breaks into it's a very realistic film that then breaks into surreality for great effect, which I think is quite a Czech thing. And it also has these really profound shifts. Let's play the marathon from Zatopek.
All right, here we go.
Kokoliksi Iwan Temaskelistikatek Jan Chosli Kinchichelloa Kokatetek Jan Slamatek Chichikutik. ¡Corre!
Assemble! Zatopek!
Good run!
Oh, what the hell?
Good run.
Come on, I was looking for you. How'd you get here?
I ran too. Don't worry, I took a shortcut. I just wanted to see you run. And I have to tell you, you look good when you run. You look like I feel when I run. But definitely, I don't look like that.
A už je to tady na olympijský stadion v Helsinkách Kniha jako první číslo 903 československý reprezentant, štátní kapitán Emil Zátopek. Zátopek zve šíleným hlasem 75 000 lidí. Promiňte, nemohu dál pokračovat.
Just before the end.
Oh, he'd won.
You
made it. So, do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because there's a lot going on.
With the Indian is there 4 times in the movie. It starts like that, and it's just after the marathon, and it's. That was a dream as well, of course, as you could see that when he was running, he definitely wasn't alone. I mean, maybe in his thoughts only. And wow.
Airplane.
So if you are recording here, you can.
Maybe the door is open or
I see.
the window.
Interesting. Just thinking.
If you can't,
possible?
those of you who might not know, if you can't hear it on the broadcast, it might not. We just heard an airplane go over. Pretty loud. You're right.
A helicopter.
Great.
Which you're not meant to hear in a sound studio.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's why I was surprised. Anyhow, so the first idea since the marathon itself, it's taken place for like around 10 minutes. So I remember I spent a couple of days just scoring, the whole scene without actually silences. Then when we met with the director, he wanted to have definitely more, places where there's no music, so we came to some compromise at the end. After the premiere, he told me, well, I should leave the music throughout.
Oh, really? So you would have preferred to have had the music?
Well, I don't know. It's I guess that's about how it's supposed to be, right? When it is how it is right now, it's great, and it was just difficult because the marathon it's broken, a couple of times by seeing the Indian. You are in the desert, and you see that Australian guy who came, Ron Clark, to Emil to learn how to be better runner, and. But so that was probably one of the most difficult scenes from the movie, or actually the most difficult one.
Right, because it's doing a lot of things. It's his exhaustion. It's his story. He's exhausted. He has to find the will to carry on running, and then that's evoked with this fantasy scene with the Aborigine, and then it also flashes back to him and Ron Clark at night, which is part of another story of them going running. And then on top of that, there's the winning. There's like, you've got to, I'm sorry, we cut it a few seconds short, but you've got to have your big, hands in the air winning beat, you've got to do that.
That's C major at the end.
And then there's all the cheering that kind of crowds out. There's all sound design there, the tumbleweed and the cheering. It just feels very, very complicated to me. And I think that's why we showed it. I think you handle it admirably. It looks like it was all intended.
Well, that's another interesting story about the very end of the whole marathon. I remember, I don't know how many years ago, like I guess 3 years ago, I was spending 31st of December at my sister's, and we were just about to having, you know, party, even though with small kids, so not a big party, but I was sitting at the Klavinova she has at home, and that idea came there. Then maybe it was already in good BPM, but then I fit it to 198, I think, this one is. And when I scored it later, I didn't know where to put it, but when I sent it to David, he called me after like 1 week. He was like, so you got the scene of the final marathon? I was, no, and he was, that's impossible because we put it there and just fits from the beginning till the end. I mean, the very last one when he enters the stadium. So, but that's more, you know, that's a luck. That doesn't happen so often, but that happened there.
Another thing I like about it is, in the context of the film, you know, this is a marathon. He's running the marathon to spite the communist authorities who've told him not to do it, and he's like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna." And I think the music captures that ambivalence really well. That, you know, he shouldn't be doing this, but he is. It's insane that he's doing this.
Yeah, and he never ran it right before. Yeah. That's the first time he actually took this run and he won, and that's the record never, which was, jak se řekne, nepřekonaný.
Was not broken yet.
Well, yeah, it was not broken because at that Olympic Games he won 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, and the marathon. So it never happened later to anyone.
Great.
Well, what I would like to say, if you mentioned the role of the editor and of the director, I would love to say also that quite often the editors and the directors know much more about your music than you do. And it's also that not only the directors have to accept your music, but you have also to accept their ideas, because they go at least a step further. Yeah. And that's an extremely important experience I made in the past. And I really, like you said, you sent a piece of music and he knew exactly what to do with that because it fit to him. So sometimes they are really a step ahead of you, knowing what to do with the music, and not only the directors but also the editors, the poor guys and girls.
Yeah, and that's, you know, well, because you're relatively fresh to this industry. I mean, that, I think that is one of the big lessons of it, is as a musician, I imagine it's very hard, like sort of giving up that control really and saying, you know, I will let you, you know, shape the stems or whatever it is they're going to do. How, you know, you've described that a bit with this sequence. How do you feel now about it? Did the sequence kind of open things up for you and make you more relaxed about that?
You mean like in general? Or, yeah.
Well, in film and TV.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, when you're doing your music, that's you. That's your voice. Your,
oh, yeah.
You know.
That's, you know what I've learned? That working in film industry is a lot about like ego. If you can, you know, forget about it. Because there were times where I thought that that's great music and it has to be there. And then I learned a lot that it's very different. And as Steven Spielberg said once, that only person or only who can has ego is the movie itself, the film itself. And I learned a lot by just working with David Ondříček, who is actually a great director. He never gives me reference like temp music to 3 films I did with him, which is amazing experience for myself. Actually doesn't happen that often, what I've learned, what I've heard. And so I'm just thinking about it, because when I'm producing my albums or producing some songs to some others, it's a different thing. But here, director and the movie, they are the they are persons or people who have last word.
Well, I think I would just do a little refinement of that. You know, it's the story that has the last word.
Or
you know,
the story.
we are,
yeah, of course.
You know, and I actually, in one particularly, one of the most brutal experiences I ever had making a film. You know, I said that once to a producer. You know, the most, whatever you're saying, the one thing that matters is the story. Yeah, you know, and I'm only serving the story here, and I guess the director, by being at that part of the pyramid, can see the story the best of anyone else. But if you've got a good a good director, and a good producer for that matter, then any decision they're asking you to do is not ego. It's just, this is what the story wants. Yeah.
I think what part and parcel all this, and going back to Alesha's point, there's something very liberating about that though as well. When you're just doing your music, it's all kind of on you. And the thing that I love about working in media, composing music for media, is that sense where it's like, this is really liberating, because I can serve other imperatives that are not my own, and there's real joy in that, in feeling that, both feeling that support, but experiencing the surprises that come when your collaborator reveals something about your own, as you said, your own music that you didn't even realize yourself.
That's right.
So I mean, we've got a couple cameras that need to have cards changed.
Yeah.
It looks like commercial break, and then we go.
We've mixed it up so much, we can't not show him play.
So we're going to take another 5-minute interval, everybody. But we will be back in 5 minutes. Yeah, we'll pull up some dance club videos, I guess. All right, more to come. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to this special edition of Music Motion live from Prague, Czech Republic. And this will be our final segment for the day. It's been an incredibly rich conversation. There's still so much more we want to discuss, and we want to...
rave! We're going to rave! Rave! It's time to rave! Bang it!
Finally!
So the audience may not know, but Ollie loves his drops. He's addicted to the drop. There have been many times I've stood next to Ollie just going. So it's a beautiful thing. So, and I don't know that I saw that last night. You've mellowed a little bit since. I've known you for a while. You were pretty mellow last night. I was surprised, especially during his set, which was really wonderful and amazing. So
I had to retain my focus. You know, this is work.
This is work. That's right. Should we play a little bit?
Yeah.
So, but can you set up this clip and tell what are we going to
this is Rido playing at a venue.
Let's clarify. You go by Rido.
Yes.
As a DJ.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great.
So DJ named Rido playing at a venue in London called Printworks, and I think the clip speaks for itself.
Okay. Here we go.
There were 6,000 people.
There were 6,000 people.
Yeah, 6,000.
When I look at that, that looks like Blade Runner to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing. Like, I mean, I was like, I saw footage before we went there of the club, and I was already excited that, you know, I mean, I have this amazing opportunity to play there. But as well, you know, like when you get there, you know, it's very visual and yeah, it's just amazing experience, you know. And we had as well a little opening show for that night too. So I was a little bit obviously nervous if everything's going to go well, you know, and there's this special, in front, this like huge LED screen, you know, that is like actually, you can see through. So because of that, we tried to like create the content, so it's like interesting. And yeah, it was just amazing.
So I want to ask you, you know, your music, drum and bass, as we've discussed, is kind of very sound designy. It's, you know, and also in a venue like that, your job is you're using your music to motivate thousands of people. There's a direct connection.
Yes.
There's nothing abstract. It's not like composing for a film and imagining what the audiences feel. You can see how they're responding to your music in the moment. How does that affect, you know, what you're talking about, you know, the way that you put these different sounds together, and also the way you see everything visually? Because I imagine there's nothing more visual than seeing 6,000 people start dancing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's every time is like it's a new experience because like every system or a place has its own thing, you know. So you try to practice or like prepare for the situation, but I mean the actual space change the experience, you know. So most of the time, I mean actually I try to be very focused. So during the set, I hardly actually acknowledge the people. I mean, I try to communicate with them, you know, but I mean, because I'm already thinking what I should play as the next song, you know, I'm in this kind of, I think, you know, a little like a trance state, you know, because like, you know, you don't have actually, most of the time you just play for an hour, you know, and there's another DJ after you. So you try to, you know, create this kind of little journey for the people, you know, and I actually love to just go up and down, you know, because some DJs, they love to sustain the energy, you know, it's kind of one sound through the whole of their set. But I try to do little like up and downs so that like I could just drop the energy down and then build it up again, you know. And most of the time, actually, I realize how many people were there after I finished, you know, because like then I stopped, you know, and I just step back a little bit from and then I look at everyone, you know, and I kind of like, okay, so this just happened, You know, so I think it's most of the time it's kind of this kind of trance state that you try to, you know, do your best, you know, and actually, you know, I mean, I look at the people, I try to see, you know, if it's working, you know, so I can actually take them to have a good time, you know. But yeah, not always you actually notice that there are that many people.
And when you're doing your other job, when you're recording and mixing and working with people like Alish, are you ever thinking about or saying to Alish, you know, the effect this music might have on an audience? Like, if we, you know, slow this down here, or if we do this or that?
Well, when it comes to recording of the film music that I do as well with Alish or other people, so most of the time I try to only give advices on, like, if it works for me, if they are actually open to it. Not always it's like that, or there's a time for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes it's like, okay, we have to go through it no matter what, you know.
Yeah.
But if there's a time and there's obviously someone who is actually trusting me with, you know, that I can actually have to say something about it, I try always, and sometimes we can even like change the slightly dynamics, you know, or instrumentations. That's possible. But I mean, I try to respect as much as I can the score, you know. So it's a little bit different, obviously.
Yeah.
And I very get inspired from that experience as well. You know, it's great to be able to actually hear so much amazing music, you know, and I could actually say something about it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to add that Pavel mentioned score. He's one of the few sound engineers who is able to read a score. So he reads the score, turns the pages, so he knows exactly what's in the score, and that's fun.
In fact, I can vouch for this because I was able to sit in on a session that you engineered a couple of days ago, and you pointed out a couple mistakes in the score to the composer.
Yeah.
Some mismatched notes and that. And that came to my attention as well. I was very impressed by that as well. Thank you.
Cool. I want to play one more clip from Pavel, which is the Batman trailer. And what's interesting about this is two things. The first is we interviewed Michael Giacchino end of last year, and he talked about the music for the Batman and how he created music. His whole ethos was just what is it like to be the Batman, and that was the music he created. So you have created your own music to the Batman, which I'll leave to our audience and our viewers to kind of, you know, and I think to decide, you know, does this evoke what it feels like to be Batman? Two very different approaches, but, you know, and the other thing is just this changing, you know, we're Music Motion, we're about music and moving picture, and particularly with what you do, Pavel, is just a different way of looking at things using technology. You know, nothing is set in stone. You take other pictures, you put your own music on it, you have fun with it. It's like remixing almost. It's coming out of that culture. And I just think it's really, really cool and interesting. So this is the trailer to the Batman with Pavel's music on it.
Your secret friend. Who? Haven't a clue. Let's play a game, just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
You're becoming quite a celebrity. Why is he writing to you?
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your lying on?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
This guy's crazy!
You're part of this too.
You are part of this.
You'll see.
So, just briefly, what do you get out? You've done this on a lot of trailers. What is it that, you know, you get out of it? What makes you excited about it?
Yeah, for me, it's basically part of like learning, basically. You know, training for me, like because like I love composing music to these specific movies, you know, and I actually haven't had a chance to yet, you know, to compose something like that. So I try to find something that is challenging, you know, and use the time to train actually. And I think like if I have the picture and then I can, you know, try how it could sound, you know, and then I always try to do it and then listen to the original way, how it was done, you know, and see, you know, and so it's basically training for myself, you know, and fun, you know. So that's the main, I would say, drive behind it, you know, just to be able to score music to such amazing visuals, stories, you know, and just learn on that.
But the stimulus is stories and picture.
Yes.
You're using it as a stimulus for your own music.
Yes. That's the, because like, I mean, since I started like being more involved with the film music and film generally, it really inspires me to score something to the picture. You know, it's very different if I just write my own music without that, because I still try to make it visual, what I'm trying to write. But when you have you already have the picture and the story is there, you try to find what is the sound of that, you know, story and how it could be. So I try to use it as learning for my composition and actually being able to be synced into the picture. You know, how can you know, still like, I mean, have some melodic content but still be synced to the picture, or not melodic, it could be just percussive, or what I've tried at the end. So yeah, so it's basically learning and having fun, you know, and using the image to inspire me to do that.
Right.
Fantastic. I feel like we could spend so much more time with each of you and your canons of work, and I'm sorry that we're not going to. We're running on to 2.5 hours, which it's just flown by. As kind of a last point of discussion, I'd like to pick up a conversation thread that I had with Aleš the other night, and I'd like to hear from all three of you about what is it that you feel is unique about being a musician and artist in this city, in this country, this cradle of civilization, going back to the Romans, right? Like there, I'm struck by so many things, but there are two things that really, the two impressions that I've gotten in the days that I've been here, in that there's the first thing that I've noticed about everyone that I've talked to and involved in creative arts in Prague, there's a very strong and vital sense of creative imperative. You all are very much in tune with your muses, from what I can tell, and you're chasing things that excite you, and I've been really inspired by that here. The other thing that I've noticed, and Aleš, you mentioned this the other day, and maybe you could pick this up. It feels like you all feel very free in your work and in your creativity. In industry in the United States, particularly entertainment industries, it's very easy to get very serious about your career and very, very kind of almost shackled by that project. And I've seen so many people just lose touch with themselves and their creativity. You're also very impressive to me in terms of what you've done professionally. You all also maintain a wonderful sense of connectedness to your creative selves.
So is there something here that you might speak to about this, about being in this country, in this city, and what it does for you? You remember this conversation?
Yes, of course, yeah. It was only the second glass of red wine.
It's definitely a second.
I remember what I told you, and I don't know how it will sound to someone who is distant to us as our viewers, but what I told you is, first of all, there is a terminological difference. We don't call film industry, we call it art. So in our discussion, I said we are not part of course it's an industry, but the first idea about doing a film is art, and at least for the three of us, I guess, and not let's say a commercial success. So that's the first part of the answer, and the second part is we have the luck to live in a forgotten part of the world, and we are totally we are totally unimportant. So that's the advantage. So you don't measure yourself like, we are not composing music for the real Batman. We are not composing music for big Hollywood movies where you are part of a huge business with huge responsibility. Our responsibility is to our friends directors. So all the directors we work with, or most of them, are good friends of us. And so it's a responsibility not to produce a failure of the movie in artistic terms. So that would be my answer, and I hope my colleagues will disagree.
Well, Beata, what do you have to say to that?
I cannot disagree. He invited me here. I mean, definitely less pressure than in any bigger country. And I don't live in Prague anymore. I live very close to Prague, which is very important for me when I'm creating music or writing or arranging or, recording. So I have time to just be in a quiet place, close to nature, close to the forest, which probably I wouldn't be able to, obtain if I stay in US 20 years ago. I mean, also, I feel it comes with the age, because I definitely wanted, to be more exposed in, other countries before. But I just feel that we have so many advantages to live here, that once you are calm, the work comes to you. I'm listening to Buddhist monk right now for a long time. So that's very important for me to settle and just being grateful for what we have here.
Do you agree with Alish that you're forgotten here?
I mean, in geopolitical way, probably, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are like other issues.
Do you think that's a superpower, like he says?
Yeah, I don't know, but what I want to say, we have definitely issues, like we really maybe don't know how to license our music, how to sell our music abroad. I feel we have no capacities or people who are actually working for us as a composer. So it's not that I am, in peace with everything I'm trying to be, but there are definitely things we can explore to be,
Well, let me pick you up on that, because you are in a commercial industry. You're selling records to make a living.
And I wouldn't say that. It's just like very like expensive card when you give CDs or
Like a visit
vinyls,
card.
like a visit card.
Well, then you are with Alice. That's the difference.
It's a
Believe
robot.
me, they don't have that philosophy in London.
No, but maybe Beata said a better word, pressure. So there's definitely much less pressure here. And that's what makes you free. I mean, it gives you time, and the pressure is also economical one, because the life here is so cheap, so that you don't have to earn huge amounts of money just to pay your bills.
I mean, it is changing a little bit right
It's
now.
changing, yeah.
It is changing, yeah.
It's becoming more, I would say, challenging if you are like just doing the music, you know. But I don't know. For me, I think it might be a little bit different, because I think I'm very grateful for that I can do this, you know. Because like I mean, I've done a few other works, you know, in between, you know, and I as well, obviously I have lots of friends. They have these, like, you know, like I would say serious works, you know, like they work for a special company, all these things, and I'm just so grateful that I can wake up, you know, and let's say like do a little bit of sport, and then to go like to studio and work on music, and then meet people like you guys, you know, and talk about stuff that really interests me, that every day, even though sometimes I don't feel like, you know, like this, you know, I don't always wake up with like the smile and pink glasses, but I definitely remind myself that it is very unique, and I'm so grateful for every day. So I mean, even though I wake up like a little grumpy, quite quickly I realized that this is just truly amazing, that this is possible. And I think this gives me this like drive to continue, and I try to be open as much as I can to see the possibilities that may be there, and maybe yesterday I didn't see them.
I'll ask, yeah.
That's yeah. I just want to add that I do what I love, and I love what I do. So this is very important that that we really, or I really love my job, even though it consists of like writing music or playing or even like teaching or mentoring or just whatever. So I am very grateful for that. That has to be said.
Yeah, sure.
So the message is, do what you love, and don't worry about, you know, not making big royalties.
And live with gratitude.
So there's two things I want to, because what you just said there, you do what you love, and you make music, you teach music, you write. You, Pavel, you DJ, you sound record, you produce. Alish, you know, you write classical music, you score for films, you do theatre. You also, you know, assist, as we've worked together on, you know, productions from, you know, America and the UK. You're all doing a lot of different things, which a lot of the people we've spoken to in Britain and America are very much composers. They've got other things they do, but that's their hobby. They're not doing multiple things. And it just strikes me there's a very creatively entrepreneurial thing going on in this country. Would you agree with that? Is that something you feel you've had to do, or it's just part of the culture?
Well, I think it's a nice perspective of life, that you are not always locked down in your studio producing music for 10 movies a year, which I wouldn't love to. And you have time for new ideas. You meet new people. You work with different people. So to me, it's definitely much better to produce music for, let's say, 2 movies a year, and doing all the other stuff, because that's a balance in me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. If I am, you know, locked down like at my, you know, studio or writing, then I love to go and being a singer and leader and pianist and have an audience, have jokes and laugh with them, and laughs and you know, and music. So I need the live audience as well, because it gives me energy back if I give them energy as well. So I love combination of those things. Needless to say that I have to do it to earn money and, you know, just survive. But I don't really do anything which I don't like, or I don't, you know. So that's still, yeah, I love it that we have so many things we can do.
I'm struck by the way the word balance has come up in this conversation. And I would also say that it's not just balance, but it's also that just seeing how all of these things kind of feed the different parts of yourselves, how they feed one another. Alish is also a scholar, a musicologist and music historian, and you have talked about in other conversations about how that feeds into your creativity, your teaching, or your songwriting, and how that informs the way that you approach making music for film. Your work as an engineer and a synthesist, and you know, how that feeds into your DJing, or you know, whether you're doing sound design for a collaboration on for a stage show. You know, people like to talk about balance, but you all actually seem like you have some balance, and it's a beautiful thing to see, an inspiring thing to see, and we just really appreciate that example. For all of our viewers, my students back in Texas, and anyone else, about how having a shift in perspective around the things that we're doing and why we are doing them can be a really powerful thing, because I think all of the work that we've taken in today has been really, really inspiring. All three of you are just so impressive as people and as artists, and I'm so grateful for the time that you've spent with us today.
Thank you for
Great.
having us.
Yeah.
So I think that probably wraps this up, our first ever Music Motion live show. Maybe we'll come back to Prague again. Would you have us back?
Of course, yeah.
There are still more restaurants, I feel like, that have to be taken.
I think you meant to say more musical voices.
More musical. Yeah, well, actually, more musical and artistic voices. You know,
and more movies to be done.
Yes, yes.
So, can we just pitch next month?
Yes.
On Music Motion, we'll be back to virtual world. I don't know whether you're going to be in London or in LA.
I don't
ask
don't
about
ask
it. Okay, yeah. But could you tell everybody a little bit about next month?
Well, you know, it connects to this. It's how I met Alish. We're going to be speaking to the composer Anne Nikitin next month, who did the score for Dangerous Liaisons, which is what brought me to Prague and brought me working with Alish, who's also the composer of lots of other fantastic stuff, including the TV series Mrs. Wilson, the film American Animals, and someone who I just had enormous joy working with, is extraordinarily talented, and will be a fantastic conversation. We will, like we did with Ruth Barrett, be able to actually play some stuff that I worked on, so we'll be able to talk about the genesis of it and the working relationship. And you know, what Anne did for Dangerous Liaisons is a remarkably complex score, which going away from the chilled out Czech model goes to the Western, like not enough time, you know, insane deadlines model. And what she achieved, both in her composition and with a remarkable team behind her, I think is fantastic, and we're going to be able to dig into a lot of that.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. It's going to be a really great episode. We hope you tune in. I want to say again, thank you to the Czech Educational Foundation of Texas, who financially made this thing happen today as a part of the Czech Music Initiative at the University of North Texas College of Music. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jakuji, is that close?
Děkuji.
Děkuji. Okay, that was
not close at all.
That was not close at all.
It was something between jacuzzi and
jacuzzi. Yeah. This is a Saturday Night Live sketch. All of a sudden.
It's similar.
Yakui. And well, so yakui to all three of you as well. This has just been such a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time.
And I'll see you online, I guess, right?
I'll see you online.
Okay. All right, everybody. Take care.
I think the world will implode. If and when I actually come to Dallas, like the world will fold in on
it will
itself.
happen, though. It will happen. It will happen.
It was like, it was constantly like being on a sand. Crazy.
Yeah.
So that never happens with these small Czech movies.
Yeah, well, I think the point came across very clearly that there's another way of doing things.
Yeah.